and welcome to Kiki Crochet. In this video tutorial we're going to learn how to crochet step by step the Julia backpack. The backpack is mainly made with this shell stitch, and then we're going to see how to crochet the lid, which we have seen how to crochet it separately on an earlier video. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see all the high quality material from the Magenta Arty Workshop here in Greece, and they send worldwide. I will have the link under the video. So we're going to see how to crochet on the 100% leather base. Then we're going to see how to form the shell stitch and how to work it on the round. Then we're going to see how to attach all the pieces together, the leather straps, the leather handle, and then in the end we're going to see how to attach the leather tightening cord. So let's see how to start. Okay, so now let's start crocheting on the base of our bag, and I want to be looking on the good side of the base, and I took the 4mm crochet hook. Now we are going to crochet chains around the holes, and then we're going to crochet on top of those chains that we're going to create. The mistake that I usually see is that people try to crochet right away single crochet inside the holes of the base, and this is wrong because first of all you're not going to make a long-lasting bag, because from the weight the stitches are going to open up, they're going to get loose, and your bag is going to be destroyed. First that, and secondly, when you crochet right away single crochet on the holes, when you go on the next row and you start creating a stitch and not just particularly going around with only single crochet, the bag starts to shrink and it looks like a boat. So the way that we're going to start crocheting around the base is a correct way to go about. Okay, so put your crochet hook somewhere in the center and take the yarn from the back of the base and pull it through the hole, and do it slowly because you're crocheting with a smaller crochet hook than you're supposed to. Okay, and it might be kind of hard to pull the yarn. Okay, now extend the loop up until you reach the next hole. Put your hook in the hole, yarn over once, and pull the yarn through the hole and through the loop from your crochet hook. And this is my first chain. Extend your chain to reach, extend your loop to reach the next hole. Put your hook in the hole, yarn over once, and pull the yarn through the hole and through the loop from your crochet hook. Again, extend the loop to reach the next hole, yarn over once, pull it through the hole and through the loop from your hook, extend the loop, reach the next hole, yarn over once, and pull through the hole and through the loop from your crochet hook. Okay, so we're creating chains on top of the base. Now go all around and crochet the chains all around here up until the last hole. Once I reach this spot, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to create the last chain over here. Okay, I've crocheted up to the last hole, and now we need to cover this gap over here by creating another chain here in the end. So what I want you to do is cut the yarn that you're crocheting with and pull the loop through the chain. Okay. Now that I've pulled the loop through the chain, what I want you to do is put your crochet hook under the first chain that we created. Take the yarn, pull it under the chain, and now from the bottom to the top, I want you to put your crochet hook from the bottom to the top on the last chain that we created, and I want the crochet hook to come through the center of those two loops. So from the bottom to the top, Okay, and we want the crochet hook to go through the center of the chain. Now take the yarn and pull it on the back of your base. And here we go, we have created the last chain over here. Now we're going to make a knot. Okay, and weave in the ends right here on the loops that we have created by working the chains, and make sure that this is on the wrong side, on the inside of your bag. Okay, this is the good side and this is the wrong side, so weave in the ends on the loops over here. Once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue with our bag. Our base is ready to crochet onto it. Okay, I've weaved in my ends on the back here. Now we're going to crochet to single crochet under every single one of the chains that we created on the base. Okay, so put your hook somewhere in the center, and we want to be putting our hook under the whole chain, not front loop or back loop, the whole chain. Okay, grab the yarn, pull it under the chain and chain one to secure the yarn. Now under the same chain, I'm going to work 2 single crochet. One, same chain, 2. Okay, now next chain. If it's hard to put your hook under, just grab it with your nail, pull up the chain and put your crochet hook under. Okay, 1 single crochet under the same stitch, 2. Next chain, 1 single crochet, same chain, 2. Next chain, 1 single crochet, same chain, 2. So keep crocheting all around, 2 single crochet on every single chain. Once I reach here in the end, I'm going to turn my video to see how to start row number 2. I've completed working all around 2 single crochet in every stitch, and this is how my work looks like at this point. Now we're going to put our hook in the first single crochet for this row, and we're going to work a slip stitch. Chain 1, and now we're going to start row number 2. Before we start though, we're going to need stitch markers, and we're going to put a total of 8 stitch markers all around, 2 on each corner. What I want to do is I want to turn my base upside down. And what I want to do is I want to go on every corner, this is the corner, and I want to put a stitch marker on the stitch, on the hole that's before and on the hole that's after the corner. I want to take the stitch that's aligned to that hole, so this is the hole over here, and this is the stitch that's best aligned on that hole that's right before the increase, the corner, sorry. Okay, and now I want to take the other stitch marker and go to the hole that's after the corner and attach a stitch marker to the single crochet that's best aligned to that hole. Now turn your work and count the stitches that you have between your stitch markers, and we have 1, 2, 3 single crochet between our stitch markers. So every time I need to have a 3 stitch distance between each stitch marker. Okay, so this is the next corner, this is the corner over here, so I want to put a stitch marker on the stitch that's best aligned to this hole and the stitch that's best aligned to this hole over here. So this is the hole and this is the single crochet that's best aligned, and I know that I need to have a 3 single crochet distance. So count 1, 2, 3, and on the fourth put your stitch marker. Okay, and as you see, this is the hole that's after my corner, and see how the stitch marker fell right on here. Okay, so now going to the next corner, and it's not that visible, but this is our corner hole over here, and this is the hole that's before it. Okay, now put a stitch marker on the single crochet that's best aligned. Count 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and put your stitch marker on the fourth. Okay, and see how the fourth stitch marker fell right on the hole that's after my corner. Now let's attach our last stitch markers. Okay, now this is the corner hole, and I want the hole that's before it. Put a stitch marker on here and count 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and put your stitch marker on the fourth. See how it fell right on the hole that's after our corner? Okay, so we have a total of 8 stitch markers all around. Okay, and now we're going to start crocheting row number 2. Starting from the very first stitch, which is this one over here, I'm going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch, and on every stitch marker I'm going to be working an increase, 2 single crochet in the same stitch. Okay, so 1, next stitch, 2, next stitch, 3, next one, 4, and keep crocheting up until you reach the first stitch marker. I've reached my stitch marker, so take out your stitch marker, and in the same stitch we're going to work 2 single crochet. So 1, same stitch, 2. So keep working the same way all around, 1 single crochet in every stitch, 2 single crochet on the stitch marker, 1 single crochet, 2 on the stitch marker, 1 single crochet, 2 on the stitch marker, and so on up until you finish the row. Once you finish, and once I finish my row, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to start row number 3. I'm almost done with row number 2, and what I want to show is which is the last stitch of the row. And this is a very common mistake because many of us do not know where the hole of each stitch belongs, and we crochet on the wrong spot, and this is why we get usually a diagonal scheme. Okay, so every time that I crochet and I do not turn my work, I always work in the round. If I would turn my work, I would do this every time. So turn your work, in the end of the row turn, in the end of the row turn, and so on. So in this case, I am not turning my work in every row, I'm working in the round. This means that the hole of each stitch is on the top right. So this is the single crochet that I just worked. On the right side is the hole that belongs to it. The stitch before on the right is the hole that belongs to it. Okay, so the last stitch for this row is this single crochet over here. This next stitch is not a stitch, this is my slip stitch, in which I'm not going to work into. This is my chain 1 to start my row with. So I'm going to put my hook on the first single crochet for this row, and I'm going to work a slip stitch, chain 1, and I'm going to start row number 3. Okay, so in the third row we are only going to work 4 increases in every corner. Okay, what I meant, 4 increases all around, 1 increase in every corner. Okay, so again, turn your base upside down, and this is my first corner. Okay, and the stitch that's best aligned is this one over here. Now I'm going into the next corner, which is this one over here, and the stitch that's best aligned is this one over here. So I'm going to count the distance between the 2 stitch markers. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stitches between the stitch markers. Okay, so I'm going into the next corner, right here, and the stitch that's best aligned is this one over here. So I'm going to count the distance of 13 stitches and attach my stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So on the 14th stitch, I'm attaching my stitch marker, and it's aligned about in the corner over here. Okay? So we want to attach the stitch markers approximately. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start crocheting the third row, starting from the first stitch. 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, and keep crocheting up until you reach the stitch marker. I've reached my stitch marker, so I'm going to take it out and I'm going to work 2 single crochet in that same stitch. 1, same stitch, 2. Okay, so keep working 1 single crochet all around, and on every stitch marker I'm going to be working 2 single crochet in the same stitch. I've completed crocheting all around. Okay, I've crocheted into the last stitch, and as I mentioned earlier, this which seems as a last stitch, it's not, because this is my slip stitch. This right here is the chain 1, so put your hook in the first single crochet for this row and work your slip stitch and chain 1. Now the reason that I mentioned that this is the correct way to crochet on a leather base is because see how the rows of single crochet came out of the frame of the base? This is what we want to happen, because now that we're going to crochet one stitch in every stitch, these rows are going to rise up and they're going to hug the base. See how nice it's going to look? And this is the correct way to crochet on the base. And this way it's not going to shrink inwards and seem like a boat once you keep working and pick to crochet whatever stitch that you want. I have completed crocheting around my base, and after the first 3 rows where I work the increases, I have worked an extra row with 1 single crochet in every stitch. Now we're going to start crocheting the shell stitch. In order to work the shell stitch, we need to have a total number of stitches, which is a multiple of 6. This means that you're going to take the total number of stitches that you have and you're going to divide it by 6, and the answer needs to be a whole number. If you have a decimal, that means that you need to add stitches for your total number to be a multiple of 6. Now, I have a total of 108 single crochet. 108, it is a multiple of 6. Now, depending on the holes that you have on your base, you might have a different number of single crochet as a result at this point. If you do, divide it by 6 to check out if it is a multiple. If it's not, you need to work an extra row of single crochet where you're going to work increases around your base in order to have the correct number of stitches. Now, instead of working the 1 row of single crochet that I just did, you're going to substitute this row to add the stitches that you need for the pattern to come out right. Now, if you need to add 1 extra stitch, you can do it here. If you need to add 2 extra stitches, you're going to work 1 increase on the top and 1 on the bottom. If you need to add 3 extra stitches, you're going to do 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here, or here, here, and here. What you want to do is you want to divide the increases throughout your project so it looks nice. You want to do your increases symmetrically, because if you need to add 3 extra stitches and you go ahead and work the 3 increases here in the beginning, you're going to have a big lump and it's not going to look nice. So you need to add the stitches symmetrically around your base. Now, if you do have a total number of stitches that is a multiple of 6, let's go ahead and start. Okay, Now after the slip stitch, I have worked one chain to secure my project so it doesn't frog, so I'm going to work 2 more chains, 2 and 3. Now those 3 chains count as a double crochet, and I want to go ahead and work 2 more double crochet right here where the chain 3 is coming out from, and it's the same stitch where I worked the slip stitch. So 2 more double crochet in the same stitch. So the 3 chains that I worked in the beginning plus the 2 double crochet that I just worked gave me the first 3 double crochet to start my row with. Now I'm going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third and work a single crochet. Okay, yarn over once, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third and work 5 double crochet in the same stitch to work your shell. Oops, sorry. One, two, three, 4, 5. So I have 5 double crochet in the same stitch. Now skip 2 again, 1, 2, put your hook in the third and work a single crochet. Again, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third and work again 5 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've worked 5 double crochet in the same stitch. Now again skip 2, 1, 2, put your hook in the third and work a single crochet. Okay, so this is how the pattern looks like. Okay, now we're going to continue off camera. We always crochet in the third stitch and we always work. Now we did the single crochet. In the third stitch you're going to work the shell. In the third stitch the single crochet, in the third stitch the shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, all around. And once you reach over here where you're going to have worked your last single crochet, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to finish this row and how to start the row of the first row of repetitions. I'm almost done crocheting my first row of shells, and as I mentioned before I turned my video off, after the last shell and the last single crochet I'm left with 1, 2 stitches. I'm going to put my hook in the third, which is the slip stitch that I worked in the previous row, to work 2 more double crochet so I have a complete shell to finish my row with. Okay, so yarn over once, skip the 2 stitches, put your hook in the third right here in the slip stitch and work 2 more double crochet. 1, same stitch, 2, and I want to put my hook in the first double crochet for this row, which is the chain 3. So count 1, 2, 3 and work a slip stitch. Okay, and chain 1. And see how we have a complete shell in the end of our row as well. Now if you have worked the shell stitch before in a straight line, let's say for a scarf or for a cardigan or anything, you'll recall that The one row usually starts with a single crochet, and the next row starts with a half shell with only 3 double crochet. We do not want this to happen in our purse, in our backpack, because it's not going to look nice. We need to have complete shells going all around. This is why I started with half of a shell in the beginning of the row, and I completed the shell in the end. Okay, so I have worked my chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to start the second row of shells, which is the first row of repetitions. So put your hook in the first stitch of this row, which is the center stitch of the shell. Okay, put your hook in the first stitch and work a single crochet. Now, everywhere that I worked a single crochet in the previous row, I'm going to work a shell in this row. And everywhere that I worked a shell on the previous row, on the center stitch in the third out of the 5 double crochet, you're going to be working your single crochet. Okay, so again we're skipping 2 stitches just in case you are afraid you're going to get confused. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the single crochet, and work the shell. 5 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the center double crochet of the shell, and work your single crochet. Now put your hook, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the shell, which is the single crochet, sorry, and work your shell. 5 double crochet in the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the center stitch from the shell of the previous row, and work your single crochet. So this is how the second row of shells looks like. Now the second row of shells is the first row of repetitions. Okay, now keep working all around. Skip 2 stitches, work a shell on the single crochet in the center of the shell on the single crochet on the center of the shell, all around. Okay, as you see, because we're not working any increases anymore, our backpack has started to build up. Okay, once I come here in the end of the row, where I'm gonna work my last single crochet on top of the shell, and I'm gonna work a shell inside the last single crochet of the row. I'm going to skip the 2 stitches and slip stitch in the first single crochet for this row. When I reach here and I'm going to work my last shell, I'm going to turn my video back on to finish the row together and start the second row of repetitions. I have completed working the second row of shells, which is my first row of repetitions. I have worked the last shell on this last single crochet of the row, and now I'm going to skip the 2 stitches, 1, 2, and the third stitch is right here, the first single crochet that I started this row with. I'm going to put my hook in that single crochet, and I'm going to work a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3 to start the third row of shells, which is the second and the last row of repetitions. So start by chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to turn my work. So as I did in the first row of shells, I want to work 2 more double crochet in the same stitch right here in the slip stitch, which is kind of hard because it's tight. Okay, 1 double crochet and 1 more in the same stitch. Okay, so in the slip stitch, right where the chain 3 is coming out from, I worked 2 more double crochet plus the 3 chains. I started with 3 double crochet my row with, so I'm starting with half a shell, which I'm going to complete in the end of the row. So again, everywhere that I have a shell, I'm going to work a single crochet, and everywhere I have a single crochet, I'm going to work a shell. So skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, and work a single crochet. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the single crochet, and we are going to work a shell in that stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the center double crochet from the shell, and work a single crochet. Again, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, which is the single crochet, and we're going to work our shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, put your hook in the third, and work a single crochet. So keep repeating the steps all around, and once I reach here in the end, where I will work my last single crochet here on top of the last shell of the previous row, right here in the center stitch, I'm going to work the last single crochet. Then I'm going to skip the 2 stitches, and in the last stitch I'm going to complete the shell. I'm almost done crocheting my row. I've worked my last shell on top of the single crochet. I've worked a single crochet on top of the last shell of the previous row, and I'm going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and on the third stitch, which is the slip stitch that we worked on the previous row, we're going to work the last 2 double crochet to complete the first shell of the row. Okay, so in this same stitch, work 2 more double crochet. 1, same stitch, 2. Now put your hook on the first double crochet of this row and work a slip stitch. The first double crochet is always a chain 3, and always put your hook in that third chain. Slip stitch, chain 1, and turn the work to start working the repetitions all over again. Okay, so now you're going to start repeating the steps that we did in the second row of repetitions, where we started by working a single crochet on the first stitch, shell on the single crochet on the shell, shell on the single crochet, then single crochet on top of the shell, and so on all around. We're going to complete the row by working a shell in the last single crochet and slip stitch on top of the first stitch of the row, and then you're going to chain 3 and turn the work to work the second row of repetitions, which is the row that we just worked together, okay, with the chain 3, 2 more double crochet in the same stitch, and so on. Okay, let's see how our bag looks like at this point. And this is how it looks like. It has started to build up, and see how nice it looks. Now once I reach the desired height, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue with our bag. I've completed crocheting the main body of my backpack. I measured it here on the side, and it's a total of 28 centimeters, the total height at this point. And in order to reach this height, starting to count from the first row of shelves, I have worked a total of 23 rows of shelves, plus the 4 rows that we started in the beginning of our base. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see how to crochet on top of the shelves in order to make a straight edge on the end. so we can work a few rows of single crochet and the row with holes, so we can attach the tightening cord on the backpack. Let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, so now let's start, and make sure that after you have worked your slip stitch on the last row, make sure you work a chain 1, and now we're going to turn our work. Okay, now what we want to do is, as I mentioned before I turned the video off, we want to straighten up the edges up here. So in order to do that, I'm going to start here to explain from the center. So right on here, on the third double crochet of the shell, we always worked the single crochet, if you recall, when we worked the pattern. Excuse me. So right here, I am always going to be working one single crochet. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in this row, we're going to be working in every single stitch. So in the center of the shell, we are always going to be working a single crochet. On the 2 double crochet after, okay, on the 2 double crochet after the center, we're going to be working 1 half double crochet in each of those 2 stitches. Right here, which is the single crochet, because it is the shortest part, I am going to be working 1 double crochet in every time I reach the single crochet over here. So going upwards on the shell, on the first 2 stitches of the shell, I'm going to be working 1 half double crochet in each of the 2 stitches. On the peak of the shell over here, I'm going to be working 1 single crochet. Okay, going downwards in the last 2 stitches of the shell, I'm going to be working 1 half double crochet in each of those 2 stitches. And on the shortest part of the shell stitch right here, which is the single crochet, I'm going to be working 1 double crochet in that stitch. Okay, so let's start. Okay, starting from the first stitch, which is the peak of the shell as well, right in here, I'm going to work 1 single crochet. In the next 2 stitches, which are the last 2 stitches of the shell, I'm going to work 1 half double crochet in each of those 2 stitches. 1, next stitch, 2. In the next stitch, which is the single crochet that I was working with, because it is the shortest part, we said that we're going to be working 1 double crochet in that stitch. Okay, now going upwards on the shell, we're going to work 1 half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. Okay, let me redo that. Okay, 1 half double crochet in the first one, and 1 half double crochet in the second one. On the peak of the shell, we're going to work 1 single crochet. Again, going downwards, 1 half double crochet in the last 2 stitches of the shell. Next stitch, 2, and on top of the single crochet, because it's the shortest part, we're going to work 1 double crochet. Okay, and see how we're getting a straight edge? This is why we need to work this way all around up until we complete the row over here, where these are my last 3 stitches, the single crochet and the 2 double crochet that complete the shell. Okay, so we're going to finish with 1 double crochet on top of the single crochet and 1 half double crochet in the last 2 stitches of the row. Once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to close the row and how to start a new one. I'm almost done crocheting my row, and before we continue, I just wanted to show how nice and straight my edge is now, okay, the end of my backpack. So now I can go ahead and work one stitch in every stitch to keep to give a little more height so we can attach the tightening cord. Okay, so this is how we make straight edges when we work the shelf stitch, and this can apply to even if you're making a blanket with the shelf stitch and you want to add a border. Okay, this is exactly the steps that you're going to follow. Okay, so let me zoom in again. Okay, so as I mentioned before I turn my video off, I have worked one double crochet on top of the last single crochet of the row, one double crochet, and one half double crochet in each of the last 2 stitches of the row. Okay, now we're going to finish the row by working one slip stitch in the first stitch that we worked, which was the single crochet. Now slip stitch, chain 1, and turn your work. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to work a row of one single crochet all around, starting from the first stitch over here, 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, 4, 5, and keep crocheting one single crochet all around. Once I finish my row, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue. I have completed crocheting all around, and because I forgot to mention my stitches in the previous row, now that we have crocheted in every single stitch, I have a total of 108 stitches. The amount of stitches that I finished down here when I finished working my increases, I had a total of 108 single crochet. So up here I have 108 stitches as well. Okay, so we're going to close the row together. So put your hook in the first single crochet that you worked for this row and work a slip stitch, and now we're going to start the new row by chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to start making the squares, so we are going to fit the tightening cord in the end. Okay, so those 4 chains, the first 3 count as my double crochet, and the 4th chain is my chain 1 space. So I'm going to turn my work. Okay, I am going to skip the first stitch and put my hook in the second one and work a double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, put your hook in the stitch after that and work a double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, put your hook in the stitch after that and work 1 double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, put your hook in the stitch after that and work 1 double crochet. Okay, so this is how this row is going to look like. So always work 1 double crochet, always work a chain 1, and because that chain 1 substitutes the stitch that I was going to work over here, this is why I'm skipping the stitch, because I'm working the chain 1. Okay, so double crochet, chain 1, and always work in the second stitch. Once I reach the end, I'm going to turn my video back on to close the row together and start the new one. I'm almost done crocheting my row, and this is how it looks like at this point. Now, let's see how we're going to close this row. Okay. Now, I have worked my double crochet, I have worked my chain 1, and I'm left with 2 stitches in the end. Now, because when I work 1 chain, I always work in the second stitch over here, what will happen is in the end we're going to have 2 stitches next to each other with no space in between. That's okay, and this is what I'm going to do because it's not going to be visible, because in the end we're going to crochet the lid and it's going to cover the back part over here. Okay, and it's only 1 stitch, and in the eye it's not going to be that visible. Or instead of 1 chain you can work 2 chains and skip the 2 stitches and then work a slip stitch in the first stitch. But in the next row you're going to work 1 single crochet in the 2 stitches that you just worked. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've worked my double crochet, only 1 chain, skip the next stitch, put my hook in the stitch after that, and work the last double crochet for the row. Now work a slip stitch on the first double crochet, which is the 3rd chain counting from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and work a slip stitch, chain 1, and turn your work. Now we're going to work a few rows with 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay, starting from the first stitch, which is a double crochet over here. Now you might have seen that if you recall in the previous rows that we were working the shell, we were putting our stitch right in here. Well, this is the slip stitch, and it's not a stitch we want to crochet into at this point because it's going to give me an extra stitch in the end. Instead of 108, I'm going to have 109 stitches. Okay, I have said in previous videos that every time that we work rows and we turn our work every time we finish the row, as we are doing now, the hole that belongs to each stitch is the one that's on the top left. So this double crochet is the last stitch that I worked, so on the top left right here is the stitch that belongs to it. Okay, so starting from the first stitch we're going to work 1 single crochet all around for 108 stitches. Now I do not want to work under the chain 1. It is right, but it's not going to look nice on the eye in the end. Okay, because you're going to have 1 single crochet here, and the single crochet that you're going to work under the chain 1, it's going to look like it's below, then here, then below, and it's not going to look nice. So we do want to put our hook in the chain 1. It's going to be kind of difficult because it's pretty tight to work 1 single crochet. Now 1 single crochet in the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the chain 1 space. Okay, so keep crocheting 1 single crochet all around for a total of 108 stitches. The last stitch is going to be right here on the chain 1. And once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how we're going to continue. I'm almost done crocheting my row. I have worked a total of 107 stitches, and as I mentioned earlier, before I turned the video off, the last stitch is right here, the chain 1 space. So put your hook in the chain and work the last stitch. This is my 108th stitch. Now we're going to put our hook in the first single crochet for this row and work a slip stitch. Okay, chain 1, and we are not going to turn our work, we're going to keep working in the round now. Okay, now the difference between when you work in the rounds and when you turn the work in every row that you finish, when you keep working in the same direction, now the first stitch is right here. So each stitch, the hole now that belongs to each stitch is on the top right. So this right here is the first single crochet of the row, okay, and the hole that belongs to it is this one right here on the top right, in the same stitch that we just worked, the slip stitch. So keep working 1 single crochet all around, and the last single crochet is this one right here, and the one that we just worked in the last chain space. So the hole that belongs to it is this one right here. So in this hole over here we do not crochet because this is the slip stitch that we just worked. Okay, so let's start working from the first single crochet, 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, and keep working 1 single crochet all around for 108 stitches again. I've completed crocheting. I have a total of 108 stitches. Now I'm going to work one last row, and because I'm going to keep working in the round, I'm going to put a I'm going to put a stitch marker on the last single crochet that I just worked on the 108th stitch. And what I'm going to do, instead of working a slip stitch in the first single crochet for this row, I'm going to put my hook and I'm going to work my first single crochet. Okay, so 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3. So keep working all around for a total of 108 stitches. Now the last stitch, the 108th, is going to be in the stitch marker. Once I reach my stitch marker, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue. Before I turn my video off, we had finished this row and we had started a new one, okay, going in the round. I crocheted that row, but because it was too high up after the row with the holes, I didn't like it, so I frogged it. So after the row where we worked double crochet and a chain 1, I have 2 rows of single crochet. Okay, so now we're going to close our work. So you're going to put your hook in that first single crochet for this row, make a slip stitch, chain 1, cut the yarn, pull the loop and tighten up. Now make sure you burn your ends so the yarn does not frog, okay? So what we're going to do now, let me zoom out so you can see how the bag looks like at this point. Okay, so what I want to do now, make sure you fold exactly in half your bag, okay, your backpack, and this is how it looks like at this point. Now what I want to do is I want to separate the stitches that I'm going to use to make the lid. So what I want to do is up here on the single crochet on the one side, I want to count 10 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm putting my stitch marker on the 10th single crochet and on the other side as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what I just did is I separated the stitches that I'm going to use when I'm going to sew the lid. So the lid needs to be this big. Okay, so now let's see how we're going to crochet the lid of our backpack. I've already started with my chain and I have a total of 12 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now we're going to start with row number 1 and we're going to start crocheting from the 4th stitch from your hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over once, put your hook in the 4th chain and work a double crochet. Now the 3 chains that we left behind count as my first double crochet, and the double crochet that we just worked in the 4th chain counts as the second one. So I have the first 2 double crochet for the row and I'm going to start counting from 2. Next chain, 3, next one, 4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, 8, and 9. So I have 9 double crochet and I have 1 chain left over in the end. In this last chain I'm going to work 7 double crochet in the same chain. So yarn over once and we're going to start crocheting our 7 stitches. 1, same stitch, 2, same stitch, 3, same stitch, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So I have 7 double crochet in the same stitch. Now what I forgot to mention is that start counting from the beginning and count your 9 stitches and put a stitch marker on your 9th stitch. So the first one is the chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So on your 9th stitch, put a stitch marker. Then we have the 7 that we just worked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And don't mind the big hole that's just created in here by working the 7 stitches in the same stitch. In the end, when we weave in this end over here around the stitches, it's going to tighten up. Okay, now starting from the next chain, now we're going to work on the bottom side of our foundation chain. Okay, so we just worked here. Now we're going to crochet on the leftover loops from our chains. Okay. So starting from the next chain, this is where we just worked. So this is the next chain. We want to work again 9 double crochet. So 1, and put your stitch marker on that first stitch that we just worked. Okay, so 1, next chain, 2, next one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now just to make sure that you don't skip any stitches, we have 2 leftover stitches at this point. And if you turn your work from the beginning where we started, this is the 3 chains that we worked in the beginning, that we left in the beginning of the row. Okay, so on that first chain down there, out of the 3, sorry, on that first chain out of the 3 is going to be our last stitch of the row. And when you crochet it on that 4th chain over here, this is going to be the stitch that I'm going to work just now. Okay, the next stitch, this is going to be the 8th, and the first out of the 3 chains is going to be my 9th stitch for the row. So next chain, 8, and our last double crochet right here in the first out of the 3 chains. 9. Okay, this is how the end of row number 1 looks like. Now for every row that we're going to start by chaining 2. And you might know that when you work with double crochet, every time that you start a row, a double crochet equals to the 3 first chains. But if I start by chaining 3, I'm going to create a big gap from the first stitch to the second, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm always going to be crocheting 2 chains instead of 3, and those 2 chains will count as my first double crochet. Okay, so let's turn our work, and because the first 2 chains count as my first double crochet, I'm always going to be skipping the first stitch and start crocheting from the second one. Okay, so 2, next stitch, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and my last stitch is going to be on the stitch marker. It's going to be my 9th stitch. Okay, again, place your stitch marker on the 9th stitch. And what we use the stitch markers for is because the next rows we're going to be working off camera in the beginning and in the end. I always work 1 double crochet in every stitch up until the stitch marker. The stitch marker is the last stitch of the 1 stitch in every stitch. Now between the stitch markers, between them, okay, we are always going to be working our increases. So what we did between the stitch markers in the previous row is we worked 7 double crochet in the same stitch. What we're going to do now is we're going to start working 2 double crochet in each of those 7. So I'm going to have 14 double crochet between my stitch markers. So starting from the first stitch, 1, same stitch, 2. Next stitch, 3, same stitch, 4. Next stitch, 5, same stitch, 6. Next stitch, 7, same stitch, 8. Next stitch, 9, same stitch, 10. Next stitch, 11, same stitch, 12. And the last stitch that I'm going to work my increases, the next one, 13, same stitch, 14. Okay, now from the stitch marker to the end, I'm going to finish the row with 9 stitches. So the first one, and I'm going to place my stitch marker again in that first stitch that it just worked. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and always be aware that your last stitch, the 9th stitch, is always going to be the top when we start working those 2 chains in the beginning of every row. Now counting from the bottom to the top, you want to put your hook in that second chain right over here, okay? And that's always going to be the last stitch of the row, that top of that second chain right there. Okay, and this is my 9th stitch. Okay, and this is the end of row number 2, and this is how my lid looks like at this point. Now we're going to start by chaining 2, 1, 2, turn your work. Starting again from the second stitch, we want to work 9 double crochet up until the stitch marker. So 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, and keep crocheting your 9 stitches up until the stitch marker. I have worked my 8 double crochet. Now the 9th we're going to work together. 9, and again place your stitch marker. Now between the stitch markers I have a total of 14 stitches. Okay, the loops look kind of big over here because I have already made the Greek version. Okay, and I frogged, and now I'm doing this version. So this is why you're going to see the loops of the double crochet kind of loose. So we have worked our 9 stitches, and now between the stitch markers I have a total of 14 stitches in which I'm going to work as follow. Okay, in the first I'm going to work an increase, then a double crochet, and I'm going to repeat that step a total of 2 more times. Then on the peak I'm going to work 2 increases in a row, and then I'm going to finish the row by working a double crochet and an increase after the peak, and I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. Okay, so let's start. Every time I mention an increase means 2 double crochet in the same stitch. So I'm starting with an increase, 1, same stitch, 2. Next stitch I'm going to work only 1 double crochet, and I'm going to repeat this step 2 more times. So increase, 1, same stitch, 2. Next stitch I'm going to work 1 double crochet. In the next stitch I'm going to work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2, and in the next stitch I'm going to work only 1 double crochet. So I have an increase and a double crochet once, an increase and 1 double crochet twice, an increase and a double crochet a total of 3 times. Now I've reached the peak, in which in the next 2 stitches I'm going to work increase. So 1 double crochet, same stitch, 2. In the next stitch I'm going to work an increase again. So 1, same stitch, 2, and I'm going to finish the row with a double crochet and an increase, and I'm going to repeat 2 more times. So 1 double crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next one, 1, same stitch, 2. Okay, again 1 double crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next one, 1, same stitch, 2, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, increase in the last stitch before the stitch marker, 1, same stitch, 2. Now from the stitch marker till the end of the row we're going to work off camera a total of 9 double crochet. I have completed crocheting row number 3, and this is how the lid of our backpack looks like. Now what we're going to do now, from the 4th row on, in every new row that I'm going to start, I'm going to be giving 2 extra stitches on each side, and this will happen because we're going to do that because see how from here on the lid kind of looks like it's going to start to look like a mushroom. It's straight here and it has started to get bigger here. It looks kind of wider, and this is because in every row I was starting the increases and finishing them in the same exact spot. So in order to avoid that, to have a mushroom-like lid, what we're going to do is I'm going to take the stitch marker out, and it's on the 9th stitch, and I'm going to give 2 extra stitches, 1, 2, and I'm going to attach the stitch marker. On the other side as well, take out the stitch marker from the 9th stitch and add 1, 2 more stitches. So what I have now, instead of 9 stitches in which we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch, now we have 11 to start with on the one side and 11 to finish with in the end. So we're going to start row number 4 by chaining 2, 1, 2, and turn your work. Starting from the 2nd stitch, work a total of 11 double crochet up until the stitch marker. I have worked my 11 stitches, and between the stitch markers now I have a total of 18 stitches in which we're going to work the steps that will follow. So I'm going to work an increase in the first stitch and 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and I'm going to repeat that step one more time. Okay, so work an increase in the first stitch, 1, same stitch, 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1, next stitch, 2. Now repeat that step one more time. So an increase in the next stitch, 1, same stitch, 2, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 2. So 1, next stitch, 2. In the next stitch, work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2. In the next stitch, work 1 double crochet. Now again, I have reached the peak of my lid, in which in the next 2 stitches I'm going to work an increase. So next stitch, work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2, and in the next stitch an increase as well, 1, same stitch, 2. Now whatever steps we do before the peak, the same exact steps I do going downwards. So I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, an increase in the next one, 1, same stitch, 2. Now I'm going to repeat 2 times 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, increase, and the second time 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches and an increase in the last stitch. Okay, so 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1, next stitch, 2, an increase in the next stitch, 1, same stitch, 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1, next stitch, 2, and an increase in the last stitch, 1, same stitch, 2. Now from the stitch marker to the end, work 11 stitches off camera. I've completed row number 4, and this is how our project looks like at this point. Now, I forgot to mention before I turned my video off, always after you work the increase, when you start crocheting from the stitch marker, when you work that first stitch, always reattach the stitch marker again. Okay, so now we're going to start row number 5, and this is how it looks like. Now again, on both sides, I'm going to give an extra 2 stitches. So take out the stitch marker from the 11th stitch and add 2 stitches. Okay, do the same thing on the other side as well. Take the stitch marker, 1, 2. So what we're going to have now is, instead of 11 stitches, I'm going to have 13 increases and 13 to finish our row with. Okay, so chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work, starting from the second stitch, work 13 double crochet up until the stitch marker. I have worked my 13 double crochet, and now in between the stitches I have a total of 22 stitches to work my increases. So in each of the 22 stitches we're going to work as follows. So in the first stitch we're going to work an increase, then 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and repeat that step one more time. Increase, 1, 2, 3 double crochet. Okay, so let's start. So in the first stitch we're going to work an increase. 1, same stitch, 2. In each of the next three stitches, work 1 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Increase in the next stitch. 1, same stitch, 2. Now 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now work an increase in the next stitch. 1, same stitch, 2. 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And now again I have reached the peak of my lid of my project, okay? So work 2 increases back to back. So work an increase in the next stitch. 1, same stitch, 2, and an increase in the next stitch as well. 1, same stitch, 2. Now we're going to follow the same exact stitches that I did before I reached the peak, okay? So I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch. Work an increase in the next one. 1, same stitch, 2. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Increases in the 4th. 1, 2, 3. Increase in the 4th. Okay, so 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Increase in the next one. 1, same stitch, 2. Again, 1 double crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And work an increase in the last stitch. 1, oops, same stitch, 2. Now from the stitch marker to the end, work a total of 13 double crochet. I have completed crocheting row number 5 and see how nice and perfect the lid has started to form, okay? Now we're going to start row number 6, and before we start I'm going to add again 2 more stitches on each side. So 1, 2, and the other side as well, 1, 2. So instead of having 13 stitches on each side now we're going to have 15. So again we're going to start row number 6 by chaining 2, turn your work, and starting from the second stitch, work a total of 15 double crochet, where the 15th stitch is going to be on the stitch marker. And once I finish, I'm going to turn my video back on to work the increases together. I have completed crocheting my 15 stitches, and now we're going to crochet between the stitch markers the increases. So I have a total of 26 stitches, in which we're going to crochet the following. In the first stitch, I'm going to work an increase. So 1, seam stitch, 2. Continue by working 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to repeat this step one more time. So increase on the next stitch. So 1, same stitch, 2, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Increase on the next stitch. 1, same stitch, 2, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and now again I have reached the peak of the lid, so I'm going to work back-to-back increases. So in the next stitch I'm going to work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2, and in the next stitch I'm going to work an increase as well. 1, same stitch, 2. Now after working the peak of the lid, we're going to work the same steps that we just did, but we're going to work them backwards. So first I'm going to start with the 1 double crochet, then the increase, and then 4 double crochet increase, and so on. So work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1, increase on the next one, 1, same stitch, 2. Now work 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Increase on the next stitch, 1, same stitch, 2. Now work that step one more time. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now work an increase on the last stitch. So 1, same stitch, 2. Now work starting from the stitch marker 15 double crochet to finish the row. I've completed row number 6, and look how nice and perfect our lid looks like. Okay, so now in order to start row number 7, again add 2 stitches on each side. 1, 2. Do the same thing on the other side as well. 1, 2. Okay, so now we have 17 stitches on each side. And in order to start row number 7, chain 2, turn your work, and starting from the second stitch, work 17 double crochet up until the stitch marker. I've worked my 17 stitches, and now between the stitch markers I have a total of 30 stitches in which we're going to work the following. Starting from the first stitch, we're going to work an increase. 1, same stitch, 2. Now 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I'm going to work the same steps one more time. So increase on the next stitch, 1, same stitch, 2, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have almost reached the peak, and now I'm going to crochet a little differently the peak of the lid compared to how I worked it on the previous rows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work 2 increases back to back, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and 2 increases back to back over here as well. So next stitch we're going to work an increase, 1, same stitch, same stitch, 2. Next stitch again I'm going to work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1, same stitch, next stitch. I just worked 1, and now in the next stitch 1 more double crochet. Okay, and now in the next 2 stitches again I'm going to work back to back increases. So next stitch we're going to work an increase, 1, same stitch, 2. Next stitch we're going to work an increase again, 1, same stitch, 2. Now I'm going to follow the pattern that I did before I started working on the peak of the lid. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Increase on the next stitch, 1, same stitch, 2. Now follow the same step one more time. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and increase on the last stitch, 1, same stitch, 2. Now starting from the stitch marker, work the last 17 stitches for the row. I've completed row number 7, and this is how my project looks like. Now at this point you might see that your project is kind of wavy over here, and that's because of the many increases that we have worked over here to give a nice arch on our to give a nice curve on our lid. So what we want to do now in row number 8, we are going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch from the beginning to the end. Do not move the stitch markers, but when you crochet on them, replace the stitch marker on the same stitch. Okay, so work 1 double crochet in every stitch, and once I finish I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to start row number 9. I've completed row number 8, and see how nice and perfect the lid looks like. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to start row number 9, and I'm going to add again 2 stitches on each side, 1, 2, and on the other side 1, 2. So now from 17 stitches I have 19 stitches on each side. Okay, So we're going to start row number 9 by chaining 2, turn your work your 19 stitches up until the stitch marker, and once I reach that point, I'm going to turn my video back on to work the increases together. I've worked my 19 double crochet, and now we're going to work between the stitch markers where I have a total of 34 stitches. Okay, and we're going to work the following. Starting from the first stitch, I'm going to work an increase. 1 seam stitch, 2. Now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm going to follow that step. I'm going to repeat that step one more time. So an increase on the next stitch, 1 same stitch, 2, and work 1 double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Work an increase in the next stitch. 1 same stitch, 2. Now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And I have reached the peak where I'm going to work 2 increases back to back. So 2 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 same stitch, 2, oops, my stitch marker fell off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19. Okay, sorry about that. So I've worked my first increase, okay, and work an increase in the next stitch as well. 1 same stitch, 2. Now I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the next stitch, an increase in the next one, 1 same stitch, 2, and now I'm going to repeat by working 1 double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Work an increase on the next stitch, 1 same stitch, 2, and repeat one more time by working 1 double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and on the last stitch work an increase. 1 same stitch, 2, and complete the row by starting from the stitch marker and working 19 stitches to finish the row with. I've completed crocheting row number 9, and this is how our lid looks like. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're not going to work any more rows, so this is why I took out the stitch markers. What we want to do now, in order to make it easier to adjust to sew on the back of our backpack, we want to go ahead and form a straight line by working single crochet on top of the double crochet that we were working in the beginning and in the end of every row. Now this is kind of tricky, so I want all of your attention. I'm going to zoom in so it's easier to see. Now I have mentioned in other videos as well that every time that we want to work horizontally on top of the stitches, especially the double crochet, because the double crochet is being completed in 2 moves, this means that I need 2 stitches to cover the surface of the stitch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 1 chain, and I want to be working on the top of the double crochet, which is over here. Then I'm going to be working in the end of the double crochet, which is over here. Then I will be working in the second chain, which second chain is the one that I was working the double crochet into. Then I have the first chain in which I'm going to work a single crochet. Then again the top of the double crochet, the end of the double crochet, and then right away this is the second chain that I was working the stitch into, so I want a single crochet here as well, and right next to it is the first chain in which I'm going to work a single crochet. So let's start. I want 1 single crochet on the top of the stitch, 1 single crochet in the end of the stitch right over here. Then I have the second chain right over here, and I'm going to, in which I'm going to work a single crochet. Okay, and if you see, this is the second chain in which the double crochet, the last stitch of every row was crocheted into. So 1 single crochet in the second chain, and right next to it 1 single crochet in the first chain. Now 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the end of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the second chain, 1 single crochet in the first chain, okay, 1 single crochet on top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the end of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the second chain, 1 single crochet in the first chain, 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the end of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the second chain, 1 single crochet in the first chain, then again 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the end of the double crochet, 1 single crochet in the second chain. Now what I have here, I have worked 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the end of the double crochet, and this is where I just stopped, and this right here is the scheme where this is the foundation chain that I worked in the beginning of my project. Okay, so this separates the two halves of the lid. So what will happen now, this is where I just stopped crocheting, okay? And here I have the first 3 chains that I skipped, and I worked a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook in the very beginning of the lid. So what I want to do is I want to work 1 single crochet in the 1st chain, 1 single crochet in the 2nd chain, and 1 single crochet in the 3rd chain. Then after that, my stitches are being worked in the opposite way as they were on the right side of the lid. So first I'm going to be seeing the bottom, the end of the double crochet, and then I'm going to be seeing the top of the double crochet. Then I'm going to crochet in the 1st chain that I was working in the beginning of every row, and then in the 2nd chain, and then again the end of the double crochet, and then the top of the double crochet. So the stitches are being reversed after the scheme. Okay, so work 1 single crochet in the 1st chain, 1 single crochet in the 2nd chain, and 1 single crochet in the 3rd chain. Okay, now 1 single crochet in the end of the double crochet, in the bottom of the double crochet, okay? 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, then 1 single crochet on the 1st chain, and 1 single crochet on the 2nd chain right here where the last stitch was always being worked into. Now again, 1 single crochet on the bottom of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the 1st chain, 1 single crochet on the 2nd chain right over here. Okay, 1 single crochet on the bottom of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the 1st chain, 1 single crochet on the 2nd chain, now 1 single crochet on the bottom of the double crochet, 1 single crochet on the top of the double crochet, and I'm left with the last 2 chains. Okay, 1 single crochet on the 1st chain, and 1 single crochet on the 2nd one right over here. And look at how nice we made a perfect straight line by working the single crochet. Now we're going to work a 2nd row of single crochet, and this is going to be super easy because we're only going to chain 1, turn our work, and starting from the 1st single crochet of the row, work 1 single crochet across. So 1, next stitch, 2, next one, 3, and keep working 1 single crochet up until the end of the row right over here. I have completed crocheting my 2nd row of single crochet, and we have a total of 37 stitches. If you have 37 stitches, you have crocheted correctly. If you have less, that means that your lid might shrink and you won't have a nice result. So we do want to have a total of 37 stitches, and that's because we had a total of 9 rows. So on the right side I have the 9 rows times 2 because I was crocheting 2 stitches on top of every stitch. Okay, so 18 on the one side and 18 on the other side. I have a total of 36 stitches, and the single crochet that I worked on the center chain here in the scheme, a total of 37 stitches. Now I'm going to switch my hooks to half size bigger, so I'm switching to a 5.5mm crochet hook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet the crab stitch. Now if you do not want to work the crab stitch, which we're going to see in a second, what you're going to do is you're going to chain one, turn your work so your lid is looking on the left side, and work one single crochet in every stitch all around. If you are going to work the crab stitch with me, we have the chain that I just worked, and turn your lid looking on the right side, because the crab stitch, what really is single crochet worked right on the rightwards, sorry. So what I want to do is I want to put my hook right here on the first stitch. Okay, let me zoom in so it's easier for you to see. So what I want to do right here in the first stitch, okay, grab your you want your hook to be over the yarn, okay, so we're crocheting over. Now take your hook through the stitch. Make sure the one loop does not go through the other one. We want to have both loops on our hook. Now grab the yarn and crochet both of those loops together. Okay, now go into the next stitch right in here. We want the hook to be over the yarn. Grab it, bring it through the stitch. Make sure you do not pull the one loop through the other one. We want to have both on our hook. And crochet both loops together. Now go into the next stitch. Put your hook over the yarn and take it through the stitch. We want to have two loops, which we're going to crochet together. Now go into the next stitch, your hook over the yarn and take it through the stitch. We want to have two loops, which we're going to close together. Again, in the next stitch, your hook over the yarn, take it through the stitch carefully, two loops and close them together. So keep working the crab stitch all around. See what a nice end result it gives on a project. So keep crocheting all around. Once I finish here in the end, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how the lid looks completed. Okay, I have completed, I'm almost done crocheting my row with the crab stitch. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my hook right here in the last stitch over here. And I'm going to work my last stitch using the crab stitch. Okay, and I'm going to finish the row by working a slip stitch right here on the last single crochet up here. So grab the yarn and pull it through the stitch. Okay, sorry about that. So grab the yarn and pull it through the stitch and through the loop. Okay, and since you're finished, chain one, cut the yarn pretty long because we're going to use this piece of yarn to this tail to sew it on the backpack. Okay, and since you have cut the yarn, okay, pull the loop and fasten off. What we want to do is firstly we're going to see how pretty the lid is. What a nice result the crab stitch gives all around. It looks perfect. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to show real quick how to join all the pieces together on the backpack. So I'm going to take my backpack. Okay, these right here are the stitches that I separated earlier, okay, on the back side of the backpack. Now what I want to do is I want to take stitch markers, and because I want to attach the lid under the square stitch over here, I want to align as best as possible with the stitch markers that I have over here, so it best aligns with this stitch down here. Okay, and on the other side it best aligns with this stitch down here. So on this row right over here, I want to adjust to attach my lid. So I want to be looking on the good side of the lid, which is the good side that I have the crab stitch. And I'm going to adjust and see how it stands correctly, just right from the one stitch marker to the other. And this is because we have separated 36 stitches and we have a total of 37, so it sits just right. And we're going to sew going from the top to the bottom on the one stitch, and then from the bottom to the top coming out from another single crochet, then from the top to the bottom of the next stitch, and then from the bottom to the top coming out on the next single crochet. So we do want to sew every single of those 37 single crochet on top of the backpack. So once you have attached the lid on here, you're going to take the leather straps and you are going to center them on the lid right here, and you're going to sew this big loop over here. You're going to sew it on the lid of the backpack, and once you have sewn this part, you're going to sew the handle right over here, just like this. Okay, once you have sewn all those parts on the backpack, you're going to take your lining, and this is a perfect lining that Magenta Arty Workshop gives us. It's already, okay, it's already sewn and ready for us to fit it in the backpack. So fit it in here. Okay, well, you have to turn it so the pockets are on the inside of the bag. Okay, so fit it in here, and you're going to sew with the invisible stitch right under the square stitch over here. Okay, and now I'm going to show you a part of another video where I sew the lining using the invisible stitch, so you can see how to do it. Now once I do everything, all the steps that I just shown off camera, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how our backpack looks completed. Once this reaches under the squares over here, start to pin it on your work, and make sure we do not want to, as we go through, to pin the lining on the crochet project. Make sure you do not stretch out either the lining or your project. Okay, okay, next pin. Okay, so keep pinning your lining all around. Once I finish, I'm going to turn the video back on to see how to sew the lining on the bag using the invisible stitch. I have completed fitting the lining in my bag, and this is how it looks like. What I did, I put a few pins all around just to make sure that the lining is on the right place. And what I did is I took all the pins out, and I put a pin on the one side and a pin on the other side, and I took out the lining and I ironed it just to make sure that my edges over here are straight, to make it easier for me to sew on the bag. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to work the invisible stitch. Now, many of you know how to sew very well. This is my first time performing. This is my first time trying to sew something on a crochet project other than appliques, which is very easy. So if you see any mistakes, please don't judge me, but I would be really happy for you to post comments under the video that would help me to better my sewing skills. Okay, so let's see how we're going to sew. I'm going to show a few steps and then we're gonna work off camera. Okay, so what I want to do in order to work the invisible stitch, I'm gonna take one of my pins out and I'm going to attach the yarn on my lining. So from the inside to the outside, bring your needle out right here in the corner that's made from the ironing. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, see how the thread is coming out at this point over here on the lining, on the same spot but on the backpack. Sew and take the needle out, just go a little over and take out the needle. Make sure your needle is not coming through the back. Okay, we just want to grab the loops, the back loops over here. Okay, and pull the thread, pull the needle. Now see at which point is coming out here on the back, at the same spot but on the lining, up here on the corner, on the edge over here. Put your needle, okay, and take it further down, and now bring it out. Okay, now on the same spot that the thread is coming out from the lining, I want to go on the same spot on the back and put your needle in the back on the backpack and bring it further down and take it out. Okay. I'm going to take out this next pin. Now on the same spot where the thread is coming out from the backpack, on the same spot on the front, on the lining, put your needle, bring it further down and take it out. Okay, see how nice the lining looks on our backpack? This is the invisible stitch. How nice, you can't even tell that you're sewing by hand the lining on the backpack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep sewing up until I finish off camera. So we are always going to be going from the lining to the bag. Again, from the bag to the lining, then back to the bag, back to the lining, and at the spot where the thread is coming out, you want to go on the back part and sew and bring out the needle. On the same spot where the thread is coming out on the backpack, put the needle in the lining and sew. Bring the yarn a little further down, and on the spot that the thread is coming out from the lining, go ahead and put the needle in the bag and sew. Bring the thread a little further down and keep sewing in that manner. Once I finish sewing, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how the lining looks completed, and then we're going to see how to crochet the cord, the tightening cord that we're going to attach on our backpack. I have completed sewing my lining all around, and see how nice it looks with the invisible stitch. Okay, all around. What I'm going to do now, right over here where I finished, I'm going to grab over here the end and tighten up a little bit, and I'm going to go right ahead on the inside of the lining over here, and I'm going to work a few knots to be sure that my work is secure. Okay, now that I worked a few knots, I'm going to bring my thread, take your needle and bring it out down here on the lining and cut the yarn. Okay, and we've completed lining. I have completed attaching all the parts on my backpack. What I forgot to mention before I turn the video off is how to attach the closing over here. And what we want to do, what I did is I centered it right here where I was crocheting the peak of the lid. So between those two increases, I centered the closing over here and I sewed it on the lid. And then I closed the backpack with the rest of the rings on here. And where it sat, I attached the big ring on the backpack. Before you attach the big ring on here, what you want to do is you want to count your shells on the one side and on the other to make sure you have the same amounts of shells. This means that your buttons are going to be correctly centered. So once you have done all that, let me show you the back where I have attached the straps and everything. Okay, this is how it looks like when I have attached the lid. On the lid, I attached the straps and then I attached the handle. Once you have done all that, what's left to do is to attach the tightening cord. And what you want to do is you want to count your squares so you can separate them, you can divide them correctly as the cord is going to be going down, up, okay? What's very important to do on every backpack that you do when you're taking through the cord, the part here that we're going to fold in half over here so it closes as a regular backpack. What you want to do, either have a leather cord or a crocheted one, you want to take it from the top, okay, and you want to take it through and through to take it through the bottom so this piece stays closed like this. Once you have done that, go ahead and take the cord through the holes on the back as well, and once you reach the other side, again, you want to fold in half and make sure you're folding correctly. Okay, you want to fold in half, and again, on the holes over here, you want to take the cord through and through from the one side to the other to keep it closed like this as it is. Okay, once I finish taking the cord through the bag around, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how our backpack looks completed. I've completed attaching the tightening cord and this is how it looks like. Okay, and our backpack is ready. So thanks for watching. A big thanks to the store Magenta Arty Workshop for the high quality products that they have for us to make our backpacks and our bags and purses. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you like the video, please press like and leave a comment. Thanks again. Bye bye.